comment response, these guys are talking about Shiva at these different sites, and I'm in a debate about Christianity. Now, if you want to believe in something, that's fine. Okay, I'm not going to get into your personal beliefs, but once you state it publicly and you state something as fact that is not fact, or at least is very uncertain, I'm going to call you out on it. So this guy's like saying all these things are, all these speculations are fact that he believes in, and if you don't believe in it, basically he calls you a fool, as he called me a fool, because I didn't believe in his insane speculations. So basically he's like, what's your point? Even though I already told him my point was that his religion doesn't make any sense, but I'm clarifying it here. So the reason why your religion doesn't make any sense. First, let's just get in, before we even get into that, let's get into the demons, okay? So demons are, it's an old term, okay? Back in the day, back before Christianity, demons were like, sort of like jinn, I guess you could say. Some of them were good, some of them were evil, some of them were neutral. So jinn is something that from the Middle East that predates Islam as well. And also the Jews also had a similar thing because they're from the Middle East. All this stuff comes from the Middle East. Okay, so Christianity is the one who defined demons as evil, but they, from what I understand, they were influenced by like Persian religions about that, because I guess the Persians, their religions or whatever, I don't know if it was Zoroastrianism or other religions, had something like demons where they just said that they were all evil. Okay, so for one thing, you're just like, you're going off a religion that's just like taking stuff from other religions and also making stuff up after the fact, after all these other older religions, just like Islam does. Okay, so that's the first point. But the second point is, let's just take a look at Christianity being saved. Okay, so evidently God is all-powerful, right? God's all-powerful. Okay, sure. So then why does he have to have this blood sacrifice to save people? That doesn't make any sense now, does it? Why would he have to do this ritual blood sacrifice of Christ, and then we have to like do some kind of response to it to get saved? That does not make any sense from an all-powerful God perspective. That might make sense from like a lower level deity perspective, like something with limited power that has to manipulate like spiritual powers and do these weird blood sacrifices and stuff. Okay, then maybe you have something legitimate, but from an all-powerful God perspective, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, secondly, the story of the Bible. So this is going to be affecting Judaism as well. So God, at one random point, okay, so let's establish God is infinite, right? Was never created, was always there. So at one random point in eternity, he decides to make this shithole that we're living in right now. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. So what was he doing all the time before that, all the infinite time before that? All right, he had to be doing something. Was he just sitting there picking his butt, and then he just randomly decided to create this shithole, or what would eventually become a shithole? How does that make that make sense? That doesn't make sense. And there's nothing in the Bible about that. Okay, so if we have this whole period of a whole infinite period and no like philosophical explanation or anything. Do you know why we don't have a philosophical explanation? Because the people who wrote it didn't think that far. Okay, they were just making stuff up. You have a book like this thick of pages, okay, and they can't come up with any simple philosophy on what was happening before then. At least like Hinduism and Buddhism, their philosophy at least explains eternity. It's like they were more philosophical. I don't believe in that stuff necessarily, but at least they comprehended eternity. But the people you're following, the people who wrote that book, they were so narrow-minded that they didn't even understand the whole concept of eternity. That's pretty weak. Okay, so that's another problem with Judaic religions. And that goes for Judaism, it goes for Christianity, it goes for Islam, and any other kind of weird religion that was a spin-off of that. All right, now the other thing is justice. All right, you would expect like an all-powerful God to have some sense of justice, right? So maybe people would pay for what they do on Earth. If they do something bad, they're gonna pay for that. You know, they're gonna atone for their sins or something. You know what I'm saying? So, but in Christianity, that doesn't happen. All you do is do this magical incantation with Jesus or whatever, depending on what type of sect, what sect of Christianity you are. There's different obligations, and you're saved. And then the other people, they either disappear or go to hell again, depending on your sect. So that doesn't make any sense. There's no sense of justice there. Like an orangutan can come up with a better sense of justice than that. That's not a good sign for your religion. If an orangutan can have a better sense of justice than your all-powerful God. So what would you expect from an all-powerful God? Well, to have justice, right? They would know everything about justice. So like if you kill someone, all right, you're gonna pay for that. Okay, obviously here on Earth we can't carry out complete justice, because if someone kills like an innocent person, right, the person can't even pay back for their life, but they also can't pay back for the pain that they caused that victim's family's life, and they can't pay for if the person was like a doctor or something or whatever, they can't pay for the effects on the community, or even a factory worker. They can't pay for the effects that it has on the negative effects it has on the community. But a God could do that. Okay, but guess what that punishment is? That does not equate to eternal punishment. That doesn't make any sense. That equates to like maybe hundreds of years of punishment and repayment. Okay, so there's no idea of justice in the religion either. So you're failing on like three really important points here.